Hi everyone, we'll just give people a couple of minutes to assemble as the numbers are still going up, and then we'll begin. Well, good morning everyone, and welcome to our perhaps long-awaited launch of Crane. Over 260 people have registered for this webinar, so we can see there's some substantial interest even at the start of the school holidays. As we said in the invitation, this is mainly intended for the academic community, but we're pleased to have a range of other supporters and partners on the call, so welcome to everyone. Here's our agenda for the next 90 minutes or so. We're going to try and pack quite a lot in. So if you think of a question as we're going through, please do note it down. You can use the Q&A function in Teams to make sure that we see it. I think you can vote for other people's questions if you're so minded. And we'll aim to address those questions in the last 15 minutes or so when we get to that stage of the event. And I'll introduce our keynote speaker, Ollie Whitehouse, in a few moments. I'm pleased to see that we're all in the room. We started Crane with this vision of cybersecurity being a perpetual challenge, something that will need research and researchers indefinitely. Whether we think of sort of classical images of hacking with added ransomware, things like that, the root causes are many and varied. They surely don't include one employee choosing a bad password. We know how to fix some of those root causes, but we clearly don't know how to fix all of them because we haven't fixed them. So some research is needed even in that classic space. We know that society is ongoing a huge connected transformation, and some of the implications of that are still being played out. And research in how that can be made to work so that we get good outcomes for everyone is still needed. And we're finding increasingly society having automation at levels that we could only have imagined as science fiction just a few years ago. And research seems to be urgently needed on how to match the security to the technology in such cases, because it's being done badly in many cases. So in proposing Crane, we've said that these kinds of challenges aren't going to go away. They're not going to be contained. There's going to be a need for a dynamic and creative research community perpetually. So we've deliberately not focused Crane on a particular technology or particular research theme. Instead, we want to see that focus emerge in line with emerging threats and capabilities. We want that to emerge through a strategic analysis and also through the insights of individual groups and researchers. And that's really the sort of ethos that we've set up behind Crane. So in our proposal, we defined a whole lot of objectives and priorities, which complicated things for a lot of people. So I've tried to simplify them into one slide here. The biggest thing perhaps is building this ecosystem, the community of researchers around cybersecurity. part of the priorities in the national cyber strategy. And equally, we are a group of researchers. We want to undertake transformational research that really makes a difference for society and for the world. In all of the things that we aim to do as a network, we certainly don't want to reinvent any wheels. We don't want to redo things that are already working well. Rather, we want to help people integrate better and make that ecosystem stronger. So to integrate wherever we can. And a big theme that we will talk a bit about later is the need for an inclusive career structure or career ecosystem. Too many uses of ecosystem for that research community, whether it's inclusivity of people, whether that's different personal characteristics, whether that's the different disciplines that we all come from, whether it's the institutions and the regions and the areas that we work in, and so on. Crane is intended to be for everyone. We want it to be both strategic and grassroots. We're going to talk about our approach to both of those things. It's all top down and bottom up, if you will, in building that ecosystem. We want to make sure that we're looking far ahead and not sort of merely firefighting, but looking at what long-term cybersecurity research opportunities and needs might be. And indeed, we do want to plan for the long term. A key feature that many of you will be aware of is that we want Crane not merely to last for the 5 years of our funded experience, but to last indefinitely through creating a learned society. And we'll talk more about that later on as well. We're not focused in a particular region. We really want Crane to embrace the whole country, and also to avoid adding too much to the carbon footprint of the cybersecurity research community. So we're very actively seeking ways to make sure that happens. And although, as I said, I'm mainly talking to academics this morning, we're very well aware that none of that makes sense in a vacuum. We need to work in collaboration with industry, government, and other sectors, both in receiving challenge and insight into where good research might be focused, and to find out what works in practice and how to make it more practical. And equally well, I was going to say the UK is not an island, Great Britain is an island, but cybersecurity doesn't stop at the channel. And so in an international context is also crucial. And although we're not going to say much about that today, that's also very much on our minds as we've thought about planning for Crane. So the project, as we're describing it today, we had our build-up phase, our construction Crane for a little while, as we were trying to put things together over quite a long period, but now we're really ready to get going. And we've designed the program, it's a 5-year program. We've designed it in around 3 phases of activity, each one about 18 months long, with the aim that at the end of each one, we can take stock and consider what's working well, what's working badly, what to do more of, what to do less of. We, in the first instance, is the 5 of us who you see spotlighted on the call today, and me and Lynne and Adam and Stephen and Mark, ably supported, I should say, by Heather, who's our program administrator, but she's on holiday today, so you won't see her. We've designed it so that we receive input and advice from a community board that's representative of the research community. And by EPSRC's prescription, we're accountable to an independent steering group that's yet to be set up, but that'll be in place by September, I hope. And so they'll keep us on our toes and track what we're up to. And alongside that Crane 5-year life cycle, we've got this work on the Learner Society, which Shujun will talk more about in a little while, and that will evolve through the life of Crane with the aim that by the time we get to the end of the funded period, Learned Society is really ready to take the reins and lead in the community. Crane is intended, well, by the EPSRC funding, is very much for UK academics. And so full Crane membership is for any UK academic who's able to receive UKRI funding and anyone who's active in cybersecurity research. But we clearly want to involve other people who have an interest in cybersecurity research. So we're going to have a category of associate membership as well. And then, as I said, we had many letters of support from all kinds of other organizations, academic and here and overseas, companies, industry bodies, government, and other sectors. And we're very keen to involve all of those in what we do as Crane. Right now, many of you have joined our mailing list, and that's what we have for contacting both members and associate members. We will transition to having a membership database, and we're just auditioning those at the moment, and we'll put that in place later in the autumn. We didn't want to ask you to fill in forms multiple times, so we've got a very simple mailing list now. We'll have a moderate database later once we've done our due diligence and security and compliance on that. And aware of the involvement of all of those partners, we do hope to have some kind of launch for partners in the autumn to be defined later. For the rest of this call, after we've had our keynote talk, we're going to describe the main things, the core activities that we're planning for phase one of Crane. There's the top-down, the big picture stuff that I've mentioned, the technology trends, horizon scanning. And that drives quite a lot of the activity within the program because it leads on to perhaps detailed technical workshops and eventually leads to a funded call for pilot projects where, based on what seem to be the viable and good research topics, Crane is funded to fund others in the research community to undertake small and medium-sized projects that might lead to bigger proposals in the long term, or bigger collaborations, program grants, or maybe specific targeted reports or pieces of analysis or something of that kind. At the same time, we're aiming to have this bottom-up community emphasis, we're launching special interest groups and working groups today. And we'll mention some of those and some also that are in development, and a call for proposals for others, and we'll come back to that shortly. I'll talk a little bit about our plans for a regional program. That's a little bit nascent. We've got an initial idea, but we certainly want to build that up over time. And then, in keeping with that limited carbon footprint, but also being aware of that it's easier for some people to travel than others, we're launching today as a webinar, but we really hope to get everyone together occasionally. And what we have in mind is some kind of all hands meeting, hopefully next summer and in succeeding summers. We'll probably start with some hands and end up perhaps with all hands as the event grows. We'd like to co-locate that with other associated events, whether it's Centres of Excellence or the Learned Society, or maybe some other sort of semi-associated cybersecurity research and education events. We're open to some ideas there, but we do plan to have a big event in the summer because there's nothing quite like getting everybody together to chat and talk and have serendipitous conversations in corridors about their research, because that's the way the community grows and develops. So we're going to have some online activity, some face-to-face activity, and we invite everyone to participate. We're going to talk about most of those things later on this call. We won't talk more about the all hands today, but I wanted to mention it because it's very much part of our plans. So that's my brief introduction. We'll go into those greater details later. But first, it's a great pleasure to welcome Ollie Whitehouse to the call. He almost needs no introduction, I suspect. Ollie is the CTO of the National Cybersecurity Centre. In Crane, we need to take many people's perspectives and see where research should be focused. but the NCSC is clearly the leader in the UK, and so it's very good to hear from you, Ollie, and we'll welcome your thoughts on the need for Crane and where we could or should be going. If you'd like to share and so on, over to you.
Very good. Thank you very much. So I'm not going to use slides, but I will talk for a while and then happy to take any questions from anyone as you see fit. So yeah, so I'm going to kind of go through why we see Crane as kind of strategically valuable to the United Kingdom. Then I'll kind of dig into a little bit on some of the challenges and to really bring to life, I think, some of the multidisciplinary challenges that we see as the National Cybersecurity Centre. And then I'll dig into the Christmas wish list, if I may, on things which I hope kind of learned groups such as this can kind of help address. But for wider context, for those who aren't familiar with who NCSC are, so NCSC, National Cybersecurity Centre, part of GCHQ, we're in government, the National Technical Authority for Cybersecurity, and that's quite a load-bearing title. So we're not a regulator, we're not a legislator, but we are technical experts, and so we are the independent voice within government in terms of evidence-based decision-making when it comes to cybersecurity, and we provide advice and guidance. Our mission stretches from critical national infrastructure, government against the highest, most sophisticated threats, down through to the citizens. So it's quite a broad remit. And obviously our mission is to make the UK the safest place to live and work online. For those that I've not met, hello, Ollie Whitehouse, in government about 22 months now, 28 years in the private sector prior to that, always in cyber, with large stints in applied research, among other things. So when we look to why Crane, and then why we are deeply supportive of it, I think what we would recognise is for a very long time, cyber was seen as the technologist's problem. And, you know, as was alluded to, you know, we know that we moved on from that, and then we realised that there were human factors and socio-technical considerations as well. But as we look to the future, we can see a vast range of kind of quite knotty challenges, which has not been necessarily looked at through a cybersecurity lens yet. And so being able to bring kind of multidisciplinary, inclusive set of academic colleagues together to really get after those allows us kind of collectively to achieve more than we might. And so if I kind of wind back, so NCSC has about, depending on how you count it, about 300 researchers. And we work on everything from microelectronics through to hyper complex systems, socio-technical and the like. But we only have about that many people. In order to get kind of the scalability that we need, we've had to then obviously use the massive powerhouse, which is UK academia. So that saw us create the Academic Centre of Excellence in Cybersecurity Research, similarly education, the research institutes. And we see that Crane is a continuation of that journey as a country, but it's basically bringing the next level of diversity and opportunity to work on some of the longer term challenges that we can kind of see emanating. The way that we try and engage groups such as yours and really outline some of what the opportunity is through our research problem book. And so I'll paste the link into the chat after this. But you know, it's those types of longer term, actually quite wicked problems that we hope groups like this will ultimately get after, and to kind of bring it to life. So at NCSC, we've got a large initiative working with various other government colleagues on how we fix the fundamental market incentives for secure technology. Our position is that at the moment, security is not valued by those that consume and use technology. And when you think about it in that context, then we end up into a problem space, which is one, technological, two is socio-technical, but then vends into things like law, economics, and others. And unless we are able to get after these kind of very hard challenges fundamentally, we will assert that we don't achieve the outcome that we're ultimately seeking, because if we cannot get organizations that produce technology to be sufficiently incentivized, or those that consume and run it, be it the individual on one end or the largest enterprise of the planet on the other, then we will never ultimately achieve the resilience aims that we want as a country. But as I said, it is a wicked a diverse problem. So then when we look at how Crane will help, the other things that we recognize is at the moment, or historically, the diversity of thought sometimes in the cybersecurity domain has been lacking, which has led to a set of outcomes where we've made some good impact. But we do believe that there are voices, thoughts, ideas, and research and impact from others, which we are not necessarily able to harness today for a variety of reasons, be it their geography, be it their ability to interact with kind of the existing centres or similar. And so we see Crane as basically a very powerful vehicle to ensure that we have a more representative set of research with potentially at times challenging, but insightful new research coming out that may challenge what we see as existing prevailing wisdom. But ultimately, what we hope is that kind of through Crane that we are going to build, greater understanding, greater evidence base of what works on these really long-term and complex problems. So if I segue into why it matters, I'm going to kind of touch on the threat environment, the operating environment, the technological challenges, and then kind of go down into some of the, as I said, some of the organizational challenges. So it may have escaped you or it may have not, that the world is going through a period of great instability at this time, and we don't foresee it in the short term to revert any time. And in fact, there's the prospect that it may get more unstable as time clicks on. And naturally, what we've seen is, as part of that, is cyber is a tool by state and criminal actors alike. It is used for a variety of purposes, be it intelligence, destabilizing, or criminal. And given that context, this is why we really need to, be able to engage with academic communities and really focus and help kind of influence some of the work that you're doing to the greatest effects, given that we arguably have a period of years where if we get insights and breakthroughs, we have the opportunity to deploy for national resilience benefit. But it is half decade at most, optimistically. The operating environment that we sit in and some of the challenges it presents are, we see organizations across the country sitting on vast quantities of technical debt and legacy systems and their inability to secure those. And then again, one may ask, why is that, and what do we do about it? Because on one point, there's a leadership and executive prioritization challenge. On the other end of that, there are a discrete set of technological challenges when you think about how do you upgrade core parts of critical national infrastructure. If you can't upgrade them, how do you make them resilient? Coupled with, we are being flooded and will continue to be so with new and novel technologies. So if we look at in the short term, we can expect in the United Kingdom a significant growth in robotics and autonomy associated with that, the cybersecurity implications of which are little understood, let alone how we build those as resilient systems in totality. When we look at some of the organizational challenges, I will just remind you that we do see that security is not valued at the moment by a variety of quarters, and unless that fundamentally changes, as I said, nothing changes. So what do we look at? What do we hope the network will ultimately address? So I think one is breaking down silos across UK academia. We do still see that certain stovepipes exist, and we hope that through this there will be the ability to connect, cross-pollinate, and otherwise deduplicate to greater effect. I think that the second is delivering the next generation of researchers that can really sit on kind of long-term strategic academic research, foundational research, fundamental research, and the applied space, and have kind of impact in the short term whilst building to kind of the long-term benefit on the fundamentals. I think the third is that we build a contemporary set of approaches to how cybersecurity research is performed. Because I think if I rewind back to 30 years when I started, whilst we may have invested a lot, probably how we do it has not fundamentally changed in that time. And there's probably a kind of a new way, a new set of ways that hopefully some of these diverse minds can kind of challenge us on how we undertake the scale and the complexity of research which is necessary in order to have the breakthroughs that we seek. The next is, how do we build the evidence bases to build the long-term incentives for cybersecurity? Again, human nature, we would assert, is terribly short-sighted and kind of short-term focused more generally. But often when we talk about cybersecurity, we need to do very long muscle moves, often which span over kind of half a decade or more, potentially getting into a decade or two, as we have seen from our side of the fence. But how do we actually build it so people want to do that more so? And the last I will labour is how do we build the evidence bases of real world efficacy? And this is one of those fundamental challenges that today we still struggle to get. Unless arguably we work very closely with academic or industry partners. We see lots of solutions to cybersecurity challenges presented, but what we often don't see is the strength of evidence base of real world application in a variety of different environments, with all of the caveats and that one would wish to understand how effective it is. To give an example of where we are getting to on that is the replacement for passwords at the moment. So at NCSC, we see that pass keys is the future of authentication, because we see the removal of usernames and passwords as a means of authentication is probably one of the biggest changes that we can make. And we are seeing the evidence bases of efficacy, both with regards to user adoption, the socio-technical elements of people just wanting to use it by default because it's an easier, better experience, through to the phishing resistance of them. But that is one. And arguably, we need hundreds, thousands of these evidence bases for a variety of different solutions. So I can kind of conclude with a view to the future and outline some of the really interesting multidisciplinary challenges that we do see. So on one end, we are seeing the emergence increasingly of synthetic biology and kind of computing domains slightly venning and kind of crossing over. So to give examples, Cortical Labs in Australia, they grow synthetic brain cells for power optimized compute. They've now built a data center full of these things. There is a whole raft of cybersecurity elements that I would not know as a computer scientist how we would even start to approach side channel attacks in that style of environment, nor how would we mitigate them. That's one example. DNA data storage is another, and then. So there's this kind of venning of science fiction becoming science fact and what the cybersecurity implications are, which we don't feel that today we have great answers for. Other examples are, we can see by 2030 that we are going to have a 6G standard, which will basically have handsets, direct to satellites, speaking satellites with direct laser interconnects, which really fundamentally changes how we think of telecommunications networks and terrestrial telecommunications networks. The cybersecurity implications of that are massive. And then when we think about the space of, as I've mentioned, autonomy and robotics, we know how to do secure by design, but we don't know how to manage the cybersecurity risk, do the protective monitoring, do the incident response when we have large swathes of automation walking, flying, driving around our streets and society. And that provides both a scaling challenging to us in terms of how we get the observability, but then and do the response, but then also has a number of firsts that we're going to have to overcome with regards to how do we build trust and confidence. Is it all about formal verification? Is it not? Probably not. But what's the then there? So I'll pause, but hopefully it gives you a sense that, you know, we're deeply grateful, firstly, that you exist collectively. Hopefully I've underlined the importance and the scale of the challenge, and arguably, you know, the career opportunity that it presents. But I would underline that, you know, we do have arguably a period of instability unlike any of us have definitely seen, that we're going to have to navigate. And so how we balance that then between the long-term strategic and the valuable and fundamentally changing the parameters of the game versus being able to have kind of tactical national resilience benefits in the UK in 3 to 5 years is going to be one of those tensions that we're going to have to collectively navigate. But I will pause there and quite happy to take any questions that you may or may not have before I hand back. And thank you.
Well, thank you very much. There's plenty of challenge there and plenty for us to take away and mull over. I'm not seeing any questions in the Q&A at this point, but if anyone's got a quick question for Ollie, please do get it in now. We'll have a longer Q&A later, but it's a good moment to quiz Ollie while he's here with us.
If not, feel free to email me. Tell me how I'm wrong, inevitably, and or how we can think about this differently. But I think, you know, it's going to require groups like this to really think deeply hard about some of these challenges, as I said. There's a question in the chat, I think, that's come through. What replaces identity? Well, I think Alison has raised a good question, and I'll try and answer your question and I'll answer the politician's way. So one of the challenges that we're thinking about at the moment is in the agentic AI space, and what is identity? Because at the moment, historically, we're to humans interacting with machines, and then I have an identity and there's access associated with my identity, and that may be strongly tied to multi-factor or similar. But in an agentic AI world, whose identity are we talking about? Are we talking about me as the individual instructing a set of kind of agents to go and do a thing? Or are we talking about the agents in their own right? And how does one convey both identity and access in this kind of multi-agent world? So I don't think, but I think in answer to your question, I don't think identity gets replaced. Obviously, the means of authenticating that identity will need to improve. And then we need to think about what is identity in the context of a system, and then how does privilege or access get conveyed through that system when it's doing an activity on behalf of a human. So I think it's a really knotty problem, and definitely, you know, we're working with the AI Frontier Labs to explore some of this at the moment, because I think if we look at the model context protocol, which is the protocol which is used in a lot of the agentic AI systems at the moment, it is quite clear that security was not a primary thought necessarily. So as we think about kind of MCP2, how do we build that in? How do we engage? So Tom's come in. How do we engage NCSC on new challenges such as nano biosecurity? Come and speak to the research office here, and we'll very much look forward to having those conversations. I'll make sure I'll post the email address into the chat, and Laura can thank you later. But we would love to have those conversations, because at the moment we've got more questions than answers, but we can definitely sketch out what we see some of the challenges are. And that goes into, so obviously there's the bio, but then there's chemical compute and down there. Oh, and there's Laura. She's on the on the chat already. Awesome.
Great, thank you. Oh, hang on. So I see another question here which says, are there key areas in relating to humans in cybersecurity you think we should focus on? And Adam had a hand up.
It was just to point out the question, so it's right. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, I will not try and ad-lib it and get it wrong, but we definitely have those problems. I will get those to this group after the call. But we have a a variety of human challenges. Yes, challenges and opportunities, I should say.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time there, Ollie. That's really inspiring, and we will move on and talk about how, well, the next topic is horizon scanning. So this is how Crane is going to approach this question of where we look and where we go. So what's needed. So I will hand over to Mark at this point.
Thanks, Andrew. So welcome everybody. Andrew, I think you're going, let's just see thank you. So this is about the technology trends tracking and analysis part of Crane. And its purpose is to try to develop an understanding of what the upcoming technologies in cybersecurity are. So that's in order to inform interested parties like ourselves, like government, industry, universities, civil society, and also importantly to inform our calls for proposals. Because as you surely know, one of the things that Crane will be doing is having calls for proposals for small projects. We expect to issue those in about 10 or 11 months' time. One of the purposes of the technology trends tracking and analysis is to inform what we put in those proposals. So your participation is very much needed for that. Andrew, can you advance the slide? Sorry, I can't do it. So there are going to be 3 iterations of this analysis during the course of Crane, and each iteration is 3 steps. The first step, which is conducted entirely online, so without physical meetings, just by electronic means, will be to kind of do a gross identification of technology trends by landscape mapping and expert surveys. So you will definitely be interested in participating in that, I hope. Then in the second step of this 3-step process, we will have workshops where we will try to rank trends by probability and impact. And we will also do a PESTLE analysis. So PESTLE stands for political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental and ethical aspects. So it's kind of looking at technologies and issues from a variety of perspectives and trying to understand their impacts in terms of those perspectives. Then the final step in this 3-step process is the synthesis, where we will produce reports that describe the research priorities and policy recommendations in multi-horizon reports. By multi-horizon, I mean across different lengths of time. So Andrew, if you could go to the next slide. So as I mentioned, the first step is the structured expert survey, in which experts will anonymously answer open-ended questions, and then we will share those questions across the experts that have answered and get them to try to rank importance and to develop scenarios across different industries, for example, finance, telecoms, health, and so on. And then experts will be able to adjust their responses. So the sort of experts that we have in mind are government, industry, international, Crane members themselves. And of course, we'll also use inputs like the ENISA Foresight NCSC reports that now were discussed there by Ollie, and World Economic Forum Cyber Security Trends, Gartner, and so on. So the output of that is a trends list and preliminary priority matrix. Let's go to the next slide. Then we will have the workshops. We will distribute the outputs from the first step, and we will try to get probability assessment using expert judgments and computer simulations, historical patterns, and so on. And that's where we will conduct this PESTLE analysis, political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental aspects. And there we will be a little bit more selective about the participants because it's a workshop, so we have to limit numbers. But there will be an application process, so please do apply to join the workshops, and we'll try to get a representative group that represents all the stakeholders that we have. Let's go to the next slide. Then the third step in this three-step process will be producing those reports. And as mentioned, there will be different time horizons. So there'll be a long-term, 8 years plus kind of timescale report for policymakers and strategic planners and research funders. Then there's the more medium-term one, 3 to 7 years, aimed at researchers and research managers. And then near-term, the very short-term, 1 to 2 years, with recommendations aimed at research organizations and industry. So in the next slide, we have the timeline here for the first iteration. As I mentioned, there are 3 iterations. So next month, we will start step 1, where we will produce the online surveys that you'll be able to answer. And then in the winter of this year, we will have the impact assessment workshops. So you can apply to be invited to those. And then we hope that by spring next year, we will be doing the synthesis and reporting. And then before we disseminate that in May, there will be a quality assurance and stakeholder evaluation phase. Next and final slide, please. So the way you can participate in this is, well, first of all, please complete the survey when it's announced. So that's expected in October. And then please join us for the workshops, likely in the winter, January, February of next year. And then for the synthesis, the reporting stage, we're not quite sure how that's going to work, but there will either be a tendering process, or we will appoint a research assistant to kind of gather the results and produce the reports. We'll figure that out a bit nearer the time. So thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to, well, I should have just mentioned that Adam Joinson and I are working collaboratively on this, and I think Adam is going to very kindly handle any Q&A.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, although I think Ollie did a fantastic job of actually outlining some of the future challenges that we face, both in terms of securing them and challenges to cybersecurity. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, please do put them into the Q&A or chat, and we can answer them. And if something comes up that you're thinking about, then yeah, feel free to add it in later, and we'll try and answer as well.
Great. Well, thank you both. There's not a flood of questions, so perhaps we'll move on for now. And I hope people will be thinking of questions, and we will have some questions later. We'll now move on and think about the other end of the scale, if you like, the special interest groups and working groups that we're planning. And the first of those is on the topic of, equality, diversity and inclusion and inclusive careers. And so I'm going to hand over to Lynne to talk about that.
Hello, can you hear me? Let's check. Yeah, great, thank you. So Crane's EDI plan will be managed by the Inclusive Cyber Careers Working Group. So if any of you are interested in getting involved with this group, then please do get in touch. As you'll have heard, the leadership team sees EDI as crucial to the success of this network and has charged the working group with keeping the leadership focused, informed and supported regarding any EDI issues, but also challenging them if necessary. Next slide, please. So within Crane, we've made this commitment to create an environment which is accessible and where all individuals feel empowered, included and supported to contribute your unique talents to the cybersecurity research network. This means that people, regardless of their diversity characteristics, regardless of their core discipline, can contribute to cybersecurity research. And as you've heard, we acknowledge that technology may be but technology alone is not going to create cybersecurity. And lastly, we're also including any career stage. So this isn't going to be simply a funding network for ECRs. or a talking shop for more senior academics. Next slide. So we have a number of objectives, and I just want to move on. I will talk you through these objectives alongside some of the actions that we've put in place for them. So can we move to the next slide, please? Thank you. So we've set up the 5 objectives to support our commitment, and I've provided some examples of the type of work needed to achieve each. So firstly, within the network, we will promote inclusivity and hopefully develop a sense of belonging. This will require respectful conduct towards all our members of the network, active listening to different points of view, and managing activities to optimize participation from everyone. The activities under this objective include things like creating a welcoming virtual and physical environment. We will develop a code of conduct for our members, and we will monitor the accessibility of the opportunities and events that we set up. Our second goal is to enable individual growth and development. And under this, we will create a shadow executive board so that future Network Plus leaders can learn what it takes to run a network, and they can support us and just provide a different point of view. We will also hope to create a mentorship program, and we'll seek volunteers to be mentors. Our third goal or objective is to support the development of meaningful working relationships and authentic collaborations. So we don't just want people to come together to get money for funding, but really to develop relationships that are going to work more long term. We will provide multiple opportunities for networking, and this can be through the special interest groups that you'll hear more about, with the regional groups, the collective challenges that we offer, and also the international opportunities. Our fourth objective is to regularly monitor and evaluate our plans, ensuring that we collect data not only on the diversity of the network, but also on how included members feel and how inclusive the network is. This will be done annually, and we will also set up an anonymous feedback channel so members can report any exclusion that they are experiencing. Lastly, we will pass on what we've learned by communicating best practices we find and being an advocate for members. We will do this via a webpage and also case studies highlighting the diversity of membership and the diversity of career pathways that people may follow. Each member will also have the opportunity to be listed in our directory alongside their research interests so that people can find each other within the network. Thank you for your time, and I'll take any questions, but I can't see the Q&A. It's not active on mine.
Great, thank you, Lynn. Again, I'm not seeing questions, but maybe people are storing up their questions for the end. So, there's one in the chat. We're going to talk about the Learning Society next. Questions about the relationship of working groups to the Learning Society. So we'll come to that. Essentially, the working groups are going to kick off activity, and the Learning Society will be a working group, and then eventually Learning Society will take over leadership of all of them. So thanks, Lynn, and we'll press the wrong button. I don't know what to do now. Sorry. Is everyone seeing Lynn enlarged?
Nope, can still see the slides.
Still the screen. Yeah, slides.
Oh, excuse me a moment. Well, I would move on, but I can't see the slides.
So Andrew, you might have highlighted. Yeah, okay, you can reshare.
Yeah, I'll just start again. There we go. Oh, okay. So the next group is going to be introduced by Stephen, who's going to talk about research practices.
Okay, thanks. Right. So research ethics is something that most people in cybersecurity will be familiar with, but the way that this has ended up on our plates is through a process of it first being developed within medical research, and then when the idea of ethics moved over to computer science, it was often through human-computer interaction research, and in many institutions that's really where responsibility for computer science ethics still lives. But cybersecurity has some different challenges. So, for example, the way that deception and consent are used are sometimes different. For example, it might not be feasible to ask for consent in some circumstances. There might be use of illicit or even illegal sources of data, so like underground forums, ransomware, and so on. And then there also could be some particularly high risk scenarios. So if you are doing analysis of anonymous communication networks, then some people on that might be using the network to protect their quite serious interests, and so their anonymities should still be assured. And some of ways to deal with this are well known, but there's many places and many individuals who could do with more knowledge of some of these challenges and the practices best used to address them. Another issue is related to vulnerability disclosure. This is quite often one of the stages of computer security research where you discover a vulnerability and then you need to deal with this in a way that is appropriate. And that could be reporting it to the software vendor, but it becomes particularly challenging when it's a very widespread vulnerability. So if it's in a protocol or a cipher, so dealing with that can be quite challenging. And if it goes wrong, not only does it put society at risk, but it can put the individual researchers at risk. And again, there's some pockets of good practice here, some knowledge, but again, this is not evenly distributed, and so it could benefit from collecting this information, building consensus, and then seeing how this information can be shared, and particularly shared in discussion of law reform, particularly the Computer Misuse Act, that is likely going to be adapted to have some exemptions for vulnerability research. This is driven by the pen testing community. Their interests very much align with academia, but not entirely align. So there could be some gaps if the academic voice is not heard. Ethics processes can also sometimes go wrong. One way that they can go wrong is where institutions tag on to this ethical review process and put in place processes to try to minimize legal and financial risks. Sometimes that might be appropriate, but if that is not appropriate, then it can be used to block or constrain good science. And another set of challenges are related to international working. So like all academics, there's a lot of benefits for working internationally, but this comes with concerns like ATAS, export control, and if these are implemented in an overzealous fashion, then that can be an inappropriate risk to academic freedom. So the plan is for SIG to discuss these research practices. One is going to be very much focused on CRANE. So CRANE is going to award some funding, and we have to make sure that the research supported by CRANE takes adequate care of the ethical approaches that it's going to take. The Learn Society, we'll hear more about that later, but that's going to need an ethics code of practice. There's a lot of areas I've highlighted. There's going to be more that come up where more guidance could be of help to the community. So the SIG will help develop a library of guidance for this, and then to use this library and other expertise to engage with policymakers, whether that's academic institutions, ethics committees, governments, intergovernmental organisations. And our plan is for it to be led by a member of the Korean executive, and also for continuity with the Learner Society, there will also be a member of the Learner Society that's going to be involved. Okay, any questions for me on research practices?
I haven't seen any questions so far, although there's an offer in the chat of some published papers already underway. So that's perhaps an implicit suggestion of involvement.
Yes, thank you.
Great. So I think we can hand over to Shujun to talk about the Learner Society.
Okay, so Andrew, if you don't mind, I will take control just so that it's easier for me to go through, and then you can take it back here. Okay, so I hope everyone still see the slides, because I'm actually seeing the presenter mode, but I hope you all see the audience mode. Okay. Okay, so just a quick introduction. So Shujun Lee, I'm Professor of Cybersecurity at University of Kent. So I'm currently in charge of the Learner Society Formation Working Group of Korean. The first question normally, and you will ask, and we ask ourselves when we actually started last year, about why we need yet another new Learner Society. And so this is really because of the observation of cybersecurity has been hugely interdisciplinary and recognized pretty much by the whole research community and the wider ecosystem. And then a Learner Society connecting such different disciplines currently actually does not exist. And also, if you look at in the UK, and we have CISEC, we have CSC Connect representing the cybersecurity professions and educators, but we currently don't really have one for cybersecurity researchers, and this is the same worldwide. So this gap has been discussed with a variety of organizations and people, and so it's get confirmed and echoed. So we felt this is actually quite important that we look at this as a longer term, solution after current as well. And based on what actually been said on the last slides, and really the scope of the Learner Society we are hoping to set up, we'll be really looking at interdisciplinarity and really about serving researchers, so that it really then now cover that pillar and working with others on other pillars. And given Korean will be, enabling this formation process. So, and given Korean is a UK project, so we will have a bit more UK focus in the first 5 years, but we will try to gradually grow the international elements. And the ultimate goal is by the end of the 5 years time, when actually Korean, come to the end, and then we will, so the Learner Society will actually immediately become international Learner Society, recognized by everyone. And currently we have a special Learner Society Formation Working Group within Korean, which we also have a different name. We call it the Learner Society Preparation Committee. Just make it easier to to speak. So the LS PC. And currently, so I'm chairing the special working group and the PC. And we already have some academics already volunteered, and we are also now actually calling for more volunteers, because the current academics clearly is not covering all institutions and regions and disciplines. So we would like to see how we can fill the gap to make sure that the PC is representative. So please feel free to contact me via email to discuss if you are interested. And the PC basically probably will be a relatively large body, given there were different areas we need to work on. And so mostly there will be 4 areas currently as we are currently planning it. So one is a particular body we call the Council of Heads and Professors in Cybersecurity Research. So this is more about getting opinions and feedback from more established cybersecurity researchers to see how we can actually make such a Learner Society happen. And the second is about looking at the governance model and the legal matters, because we want to make sure the learning society, if set up on a very solid footing, so that it will run well with such governance and legal matters, really very solid. And the third area is about membership model and financial sustainability, because as you know that learning society relies on different kind of incomes to be sustainable. So how this learning society will for long term will work requires some discussion with community, with people. And another one would be about IT and communication, because there will be quite a bit of this kind of work we need to do in website, social media, and in general about how to engage and how to communicate. So for those subgroups, what we call the subcommittees, and those subcommittees will, of course, work side by side with all the working groups and the main activities of CRIN, so that we can inform each other and support each other, and to make sure that other areas like those listed on the right will be considered, will feed into the process of the formation. Finally, the last slide is just a bit of timeline. So this timeline looks very detailed, but it's really a proposal. It's a tentative, which will change. What is more important is the one in the middle, the red one. This is kind of the current predicted, the planned legal formation of the learning society by the end of 2026 or early 2027, and hopefully the first AGM can happen in summer 2027. So that is sort of in the middle-ish of current, and largely it will be about, before that we will do this consultation, we'll look at identifying the first set of directors, and then we will evolve it for a few years, and eventually hopefully towards the end of current, at the end of the current we have really full operation, which then can take over and move on further. I believe this is the end of my talk. So Andrew, feel free to take over back if you need. Yeah, thank you very much. If any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Thank you. There's a question in the chat. It's quite long, so I'll let you read it perhaps while I line up the slides again.
Okay, so I think I get the main spirit of the. So thanks, thanks Ismini for the question. So this has been asked actually during the discussion in the past already. So the idea of that council is just one part of the activities. So we, of course, will not only just listen to senior researchers. So the idea is more about, because senior researcher has a bit more experience about how learning society works. But that is just one side, because Lynne will be working on another working group that will engage with ECRs, EHCRs, and wider community, so that will feed into the process. And ultimately, the governance model and the membership model, all these kind of formal design of the learning society will reflect, particularly the EDI and ECR elements, because ultimately, I would agree with you that I think learning society's future is about current ECRs, because ultimately in a few decades it's about them, not about us who are them established people. Of course can help, but ultimately we need to listen to all the directions. Yeah, I'm not sure if Lynne can add anything to.
Yeah, I think the same. Part of our shadow board was so that there can be co-chairing opportunities and things. So yeah, we will at least we will attempt to include opportunities for less experienced researchers in all the sort of roles and opportunities that we provide.
Yeah, to just add one more thing. So regarding the PC of the Learning Society or the special working group, we actually welcome less established researchers to join. And currently, I mentioned we have 50 plus people have already expressed interest. Many of them are actually not professors, basically. So if any of you feel that you are in the early or middle career of your scientific research, you want to join, please do get in touch, basically.
Okay, there's another question coming. I'm going to suggest we hold other questions until the end. So Shujun, you may want to keep an eye on the chat or the questions and see how that goes. Let's move on for now, though, and talk just briefly about other working groups. So I'm very aware that we started with this high-minded vision about cybersecurity and all the exciting things that might be coming down the track, and then we've ended up talking a lot about very instrumental things that are around how the network runs. So I do want to say that we will be inviting calls for other working groups and special interest groups in the early autumn, with the aim that perhaps some will be this very instrumental structural things, but maybe some will be around particular topics or even particular technologies or application areas or other areas of interest. So there will be a call, and so the kinds of things perhaps to be thinking about we will be asking for proposals about what the group is aiming to do, who's likely to be in it, who's going to lead it, what work is already out there. And in particular, a work plan for that first phase of Crane, what's going to be accomplished in that 18 months, and what resources the group might need from Crane, whether that's for face-to-face meetings, whether our Crane admin team can support comms and membership management, whether there are other things that the working group can help to achieve. We've got a couple of nascent ideas that hopefully we'll be able to bring forward also on that timescale. DC and NCSC are very keen that we should form a special interest group on market incentives, how ideas flow from the sort of research blue sky stuff through to practical application, and why some things get stuck in the middle, and what to do about it. That seems so there's something forming around that, and there's another group already thinking about how to form a special interest group on human-centric cybersecurity. And as I say, there'll be call for others to come as well. And then before we go to question and answers, I want to say something about regional activity. So we've been very clear that we don't want to be geographically limited. Most of the Crane leads are in the south of England. Mark's in the Midlands. Lynne is away up at Abertay. But there's not a particular centre of gravity in mind. And we're aware that there's a lot of really good regional activity already happening. There are clusters in particular places that have got particular strengths, and there's no point trying to duplicate that or indeed to tell people what to do. But we do want to bring the community together. And one other thing that somebody in another university proposed to me that seems good is that we make use of the existing online community that's been formed, the SciC3 online seminar series that really got going during lockdown, but has taken on an ongoing life and has monthly seminars. So our initial plan is that we'd like to invite people from the community to be a Crane regional organizer. We're not sort of imposing a top-down idea on where regions are, but rather, if you think you are a region, then tell us about it. And the initial thing, the very lightweight proposal initially, is that we augment that seminar series, that online seminar series, with some regionally focused seminars. So if you're a regional organizer, can you commit to organising a regional seminar at least once every 6 months? And we'll live stream that to the whole community. So hopefully there will be a Crane seminar every month, and it will move around the country. And when it's your region taking part, then Crane will give some resources so that you can perhaps get people together, have some refreshments, have some networking around that seminar. And we hope that can help. I mean, where there are already regional activities going on, that can help to highlight what's going on in your region. Where there's not a regional nexus of activity, but you think there's a scope for one, perhaps that can help to be the nexus that brings people together to do stuff. This is just an initial thing. We hope Crane will do more for regional activities in this, but this seems quite a lightweight way to get things going. So if you'd like to be a regional organizer, please do get in touch and we'll try and put together a program that makes sense. In the fullness of time, perhaps regional activities could extend to half-day mini conferences or something of that sort. Perhaps some or all of those could be live streamed. And we hope that as the group of working groups and special interest groups grows, those might also be able to report either the work that they're doing or to highlight a particular topic with a seminar or two of their own. So this is a bit of the vehicle for how we work across the regions, and we'd be very keen to hear ideas if you've got other ideas about how you want to work in your area and how we can help support that. So before we go to questions and answers, I just wanted to highlight some of the things we've talked about and how we'd like to invite involvement at this stage. As I say, we haven't got a membership database at the moment, but we have got that one form on the website that is good for joining the mailing list, but also an opportunity to express interest in any of the working groups and SIGs that we've already mentioned, or to express an interest in regional organisation, or indeed to send us a comment about something else. So even if you're already on the mailing list, feel free to fill it in again, because it's not asking for a lot of information. We won't really worry about duplicates. But that's the initial way to tell us that you're interested in one of those things. Very soon, we will launch to our partner organisations. We will invite those proposals for other working groups and special interest groups. We'll launch the horizon scanning and trends tracking activity that's already been talked about, and we'll get that regional programme off the ground and we'll share details around about the online seminars. In parallel with that, if you've got a particular interest in the Learner Society formation, please do contact Shujun. And if you've got any other questions or comments or ideas about how Crane can move cybersecurity research forward, then please do contact us at the Crane email address. That's the end of talking at everybody. So the question, I'm hoping now that Adam is on top of whatever questions we've got and is going to fire some at me or at one of the other presenters, and we'll see what's on people's minds.
So we've got a couple that haven't been answered in the chat. One is, how do you assess a proposal to set up a SIG? Is there a process yet for evaluating that?
There's not a process yet. I think we'd like to support as many as possible. So it's really a question whether it's viable and whether it's genuinely for the community rather than too narrow, either geographically or perhaps too narrow an interest. But if we can help the community to grow through that, then we want to support it. But when we publish the call, we will publish some criteria.
Okay. I'm just looking at in the Q&A, there's none that haven't been answered. Mm-hmm. Currently, we don't have any others. So if anyone wants to ask without typing, please do feel free to put your hand up and I'll keep an eye out for you as well. We have people being drawn off to other meetings, but
running out of time or going to get their lunch. I could ask any of the co-presenters if they've got any other reflections on what's been said or anything they'd like to add. You can even ask questions, but I might send them back to you.
Oh, we have someone with a hand up. Mukesh, do you want to?
Oh, hang on, we have to give.
We have to unmute you, I think. Allow microphone.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, though every time I mouse over you, it. Oh no, there we go. Can you? Oh no. I think you can unmute and speak. If I...
Yeah, I think Rakesh. Oh, okay. While we wait, I'll ask you a question, Andrew. There was mention of a shadow board. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, the intention, one of the intentions of this approach to particularly early career researchers is that through the course of Crane, we who are currently leading Crane make ourselves redundant, and whatever follows Crane, if there's other funding activity, is led by people who are currently ECRs. So we would like part of the mentoring to be that ECRs get together and form their own board, as it were, and keep the board that we've created on its toes. That's not to say there won't be ECRs on the board, but there can be a group of people who are a bit earlier in their career who can say, you're all set in your ways, and here's the things you should be thinking about. So the shadow board will have full access to what the board is up to, and be able to provide challenge and insight. Lynne may want to add to that.
No, I think that's fine.
I have a question from Victoria. Will there be an application process for the ECR shadow board, Andrew? How are we going to run that?
I think there will. I think it'll be tied up with the mentoring program, which we're in the process of defining, but we haven't got there yet. But there will be a process to volunteer as a mentor or a mentee, and that will be forthcoming. Again, I don't want to steal Lynne's thunder. I should let Lynne answer that.
Okay, but so Rakesh had a question for Ollie, but I've got a feeling Ollie may have dropped out, which is at some point he mentioned about problems in legacy systems for national infrastructure, and I'm wondering what kind they are: memory issues, API issues, or others. But is Ollie still here, or is Ollie left now?
I think Ollie has moved on, so we can take that on by correspondence. Good question. Probably several people on the call have ideas, but we'll ask Ollie his point of view.
There's a comment from Chris around funding to buy time. Presumably this is around kind of contributions to supporting working groups or regional or anything else. Is there anything you can say about that, Andrew, in terms of how people's time might be supported, or requirements for kind of support? Is there a plan, or is it all going to be kind of pro bono? Or
so we've been hoping there'll be quite a lot of sort of volunteer activity in support of the funded activity. There is some budget within Crane. We've largely set it aside for ECRs to be able to do some work within the Crane sort of portfolio of activity where they haven't got other funding. How widely that can be spent, I guess, depends on how thin we can stretch the budget. So there is some money to support people's time. It's not enormous, but there is some, and we will try and work out how to allocate that, whether it best goes to SIGs or to through some other route. But yeah, that's the plan.
Okay, thank you. We don't have any other questions, so maybe if we give it a minute or so, and then we let people escape for lunch.
Okay. I will say there've been various questions about how we follow up. We will make this recording available with the copies of the slides, and of course we will follow up on the mailing list as well, as and when we're ready for the various calls that we've mentioned.
One more comment and suggestion from Mary. Shall we have a mentorship program like EPSRC RAS network?
I don't know what that is, but I'll pump that one to Lynne.
I don't know what that one is, but my thoughts for the mentorship is that it would be a group membership approach that would involve some peer-to-peer support and not just one-to-one. I don't think we will necessarily be able to support a one-to-one membership, so I'm currently scoping out an approach to group mentorship. Hope that answers the question.
Okay, well, I think we've run into lunch, as it were. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. It's a slightly weird experience, of course, talking to a big room of people, most of whom you can't see. But online stuff is good. Face-to-face stuff is good too. And as we said, we hope to do some of that in future. And if you have ideas about how to develop this network, for all the good reasons that Ollie mentioned, we need everyone. We really do need everyone. And we'd like to find ways to involve as much activity as possible and to support as much activity as possible. So thanks for your time, and we will be in touch.
Thanks, Andrew.
Bye.